So this will not be just a panel discussion, as Florence already said. It will be a panel where we will have a sharing of different points of views. After each speaker has presented the small statement, you can already ask questions. And once everybody is through, we will have a more open discussion with everybody. Wood and fiber recycling is a very complex issue. So we said, okay, we'll make a panel that is a zoom out. We will start with a pure panel producer, Sonae. Then we go a bit zooming out of IKEA, who is a panel producer, but also into forestry and also into furniture, as you might know. Then we have Omar, who is from an industry association that is very visible in the European projects and research across Europe. And you have a good overview of what's happening on a macro level. And we go even further zooming out on the European level. And I'm very glad that Christian is here today, because we will also talk about carbon removals, which is a big issue always in the wood sector. Not at all technical, but very important. And finally, the Joint Research Center, opening the space. What does that all mean for the new European Bauhaus, and how can we further scale things? So just go down with me that road and zoom out from the panel industry to the European level. So my first guest here in the line is Adelaide. Adelaide has been a driving force in this project. If I may summarize this, I've seen you very active, very engaged throughout the whole project. You did a lot of experiments in your production sites, and I always had the feeling you really want it. You really want to make it happen, and I'm very curious to see what you will tell us today. What is your perspective on making it all happen?
So it's really a pleasure to be here, because EcoReFibre was a fantastic project, and I think it was Oliver that said that we have different know-hows, we have different ideas about things. And one of the good things of EcoReFibre was to connect the dots, to have the link from the experience of the university and then the industry together. So, no, should be, but it's not working. So you see, technology is always...
That must be you.
That might be me, yes. So only... Okay, thank you. Only some figures to introduce Sonae Arauco. So we are a wood-based producers. That's why we are so involved in this project. We have a very strong industrial soul. We are not a very fancy company. We are producing boards, particle boards, MDF and OSB, so the full spectrum of the wood-based panels. We have around 4 million of cubic meters production, and what is, I think, relevant for this discussion today, we incorporate more than 30% of recycled wood in all our operations. No. Okay. So sustainability is in the core of our vision, but I must be honest, I think that sustainability is in the core of the vision of all companies that are producing wood-based panels. It's not something very special for Sonae Arauco, it's something that is common in our industry. We start this journey in the 90s, so some years ago, starting in the PV to incorporate recycled wood. At the moment, 80% of the wood that we use to particle board is recycled wood. So we have also limitations in the introduction of the MDF in the particle board. That's why was something that we push a lot. How can we recycle in the different ways the MDF? we are still very challenge ourselves to increase the incorporation of recycled wood. We have a target to achieve in 2029 90% of 40% of recycled wood total, and we are still investing in the recycle centers, in the better ways to use wood. And as you probably know, we start a small reactor to recycle fibers, and we aim to achieve 20%. So that's come to the point that MDF came from an idea that was in our mind that MDF is not recyclable to be technical possible. Okay, so EcoReFibre proved in the industrial pilots and in demonstration that MDF can be recycled back to MDF. And that was a breakthrough for the industry, in my opinion, to have this demonstrate with multiple recycle routes and with different materials. So MDF from the restovers of our production, MDF post-consumer, and even the post-consumer wood after the amazing work of sorting that we could integrate in our plant. So as maybe Sergio explained, this was true in the Sonae Arauco plants, this was true in the Omanite. So we prove, I think, that industry can recycle. The fibers will be shorter, we need to make some adjustments, but the demonstration is done and is now real possible to recycle MDF. So if it is possible, why there are not 200 installations to be started or 20 or whatever? Because we still have some work to be done, and the work, there are internal work, let's say, because we need to have the installations and equipment, and it's a strong investment. It's not something that we can decide without a business case. And that's why also it's very important the forecast of the MDF that we'll have to recover in the next 10, 20 years, because this give us real inputs for our business case and to invest. But there are problems, and the guide that we have from these projects touch, I think, in the most important points. So the feedstock quality, the post-consumer is, we never know what is in the mix of food waste, is heterogeneous, and is really need to have a cleaning and separation of the coatings, contaminations, and so on. There is an infrastructure gap. So different countries have a different system for collection and for at least some pre-treatment. Other countries are almost zero what we can find of wood waste. I know that Italy is a fantastic example that probably Omar will change. But what we prove in the project is that the circularity of the MDF is not stopping the press, or is not, the problem is not the press, it's not the production, it's everything that came before. Last things in terms of economics. So circular solutions are more expensive in a lot of situations, and because we need investments, because we need adjustments in the process, and other topics. But the market, most of the case, don't reward this circularity and in these products in a better way. And last but not least, the economics are not, the benefits are not recognized in terms of CO2, in terms of a lot of advantage of the material with recycle. Can you move, please?
I'm trying.
You are trying. We'll make a new session in EcoReFibre out both slides. Yes. So to end my comments, I think that we really need that the policy in Europe that is very ambitious in terms of environments and in terms of industry standards needs to stop to develop new policies, but start to enabling the real work in the floor. So we need to create market pool, is very important. to allow us to have the quality and the quantity of the material that we need to produce. We really need to design for the future, and that is something that we need to do in our products, in your products, and in those products, because everything that is well think, well designed will be much more easy and cheap to recycle. And we need to really enable the scale of these projects. So we cannot have a lot of pull for innovation, and then we don't have the support from the policies and even for the investments that companies need to do to implement this. Projects like EcoReFibre cannot end because we develop a technology. In the reality, they will end with lots of companies implement these technologies, and for that, I think industry needs some help.
Many thanks. Maybe you can take the prompter and manage this challenge for me. I'm very pleased to address this audience and share with you a glimpse of IKEA perspective on the EcoReFibre achievements alongside our journey in sustainable resource management and circularity within the wood-based industry. At IKEA, we always believe that sustainability is not just a goal, but a responsibility that informs everything we do, from our products to our processes. At a glance, IKEA is a global brand powered by a diverse team of more than 200,000 employees and a robust infrastructure across the world. Within number of stores spanning continents, we pride ourselves on delivering well-designed quality home furnishings to our customers, but our commitment goes beyond retail. To date, IKEA has invested or committed around 4.2 billion euros in renewable energy and related technologies, with up to 7.5 billion planned by 2030. We operate 40 production units across 20 sites in 6 European countries. Our production portfolio heavily relies on wood panels and includes 10 to 15% of coverage of our own operations. Wood is and will continue to be an integral part of the IKEA DNA. IKEA is the largest customer of derived timber boards in the market. This includes 5 million cubic meter of particle boards, which are produced using more than 50% secondary raw materials. The goal is to increase this proportion to 80% recovered and recycled by the end of this decade. In fact, some producers have already achieved 100% recycling, highlighting the particle board industry's long-standing role as a pioneer in circularity and serving as a best case example for other industries. In addition to particle board, IKEA consumes 1.5 million cubic meters of fiberboards. Through focused innovation under the EU-funded EcoReFibre initiative, we pioneered the inclusion of recycled materials specifically for this material class. The EcoReFibre project has been very much in line and vital to our IKEA agenda, showcasing ample of practical applications within the wood-based panel industry and others. Luckily, discussions focus on business cases rather than technical feasibility. From my perspective, this is an outstanding achievement. There have already been first investments in these technologies at an industrial scale, which can undoubtedly be seen as a tangible outcome of the collaborative effort by all EcoReFibre project partners. If you move on to the second slide, then we could come to some policy recommendations. All right, to ensure investment security in near future, we should encourage, here described as first point, design for circularity through the ESPR. The design for circularity is an important lever to support the transition to a circular economy. IKEA supports the ESPR as a key driver, and we welcome the prioritization of furniture within the first delegated act, on which work has now started. In line with the second point, IKEA anticipates significant challenges in establishing cross-border recycling chains for the new created recycling products coming from the novel sorting technique. These challenges also rise from competitive disadvantages caused by subsidies supporting inconsistent standards and practices. In this context, priority should be given to reducing direct waste to energy practices and instead focusing on higher quality applications, which enables a level playing field. Coming to the third point, as we see this as most important, from IKEA's perspective, harmonizing waste wood classifications across Europe is a crucial step forward. Much like the EU's unified regulations of textile and food waste, in the 2025 revision of the Waste Framework Directive, a new directive for harmonized waste wood guidelines could unlock the potential for a truly circular economy. Like in the first point named, the focus should shift from input-based classifications to product-based evaluations. By doing so, we can better adhere to the principle of circularity, again aligning better with key frameworks such as the forthcoming ESPR expectations on furniture, including durability and recycling content. As such, regulations emphasize product declarations. It's time to address critical challenges stemming from national regulations, particularly in countries like Germany, Austria, or Denmark, as their current frameworks focus on the input quality of waste wood and not the final product. Let me emphasize, introducing a new directive without properly addressing these complexities and risks could nullify the innovative potential of the forthcoming Circular Economy Act. For successfully implementing the ambitious goals, additional legislative support, such as updates to the Waste Framework Directive, may be essential. Furthermore, establishing end-of-waste criteria can unlock additional recycling potential, as the novel sorting technology offers a pathway for legal national implementations. To the last point of collection, there are excellent examples from several EU countries that highlight effective practices alongside less successful cases that at least offer valuable lessons. For instance, the early collection of waste during the so-called district cleanup days in Zurich, which involves collaboration between local authorities and the board industry, as well as the collection practices of the BSR in Berlin, which is the largest municipal waste management company in Europe, serve as a positive example. I believe these practical examples of safely collecting larger volumes could be further discussings for further discussings in this forum. It is worth mentioning what you did from before, that most non-hazardous waste wood is generated from clear, identifiable sources before it is broken down into smaller pieces and mixed with other waste streams, which significantly complicates recycling. Mandatory separate collection policies for such materials could therefore play a crucial role in establishing a true EU single market for waste and secondary raw materials.
Thank you, Martin. I think now we already have a good list of measures and things that we could do, among others, collecting best practices, evaluating them, and scaling them up when they work. We can take a quick question to Martin. Maybe someone from the panel directly, or from the audience.
Just a point of discussion more than a question, and because I agree with almost everything Martin has said to us, especially the part on the focusing on the final product. I think we should carefully assess the talking about the end of waste criteria, because we have like our point on favoring recycling, material recycling over burning of wood. We could have more arguments for that when it's waste, because you can say you cannot landfill, you have limitation to burning. When it's a product, it's a different thing. There is no hierarchy. It's like with biomass. We can try to push cascading use, but it's more difficult than with waste. So, of course, it's a simplification, and it will improve market efficiency, but assess carefully what we are asking for.
So the conditions under which end of waste criteria would actually make sense and not be counterproductive. Yes. And
as a representative of an Italian association for furniture and also panel producer, I often ask to talk about the Italian situation, because we have quite a developed collection system and a lot of recycling. So let's see a couple of figures about this, and then we will analyze maybe the main ingredients of this experience. It is true, we can call the Italian system a good practice. These figures are based on the packaging. You see that the target at 2030 is 30%, and hence the question from Chris before to Mr. Soro about maybe enhance the recycling target could be useful. We are now well over 67%. There are some countries in Europe that are struggling with that threshold, but it's something that we can work on. And adding the repair, also in terms of tons recycled per year, we are quite advanced. So it's true that it's quite a good case to study. So we can go to the next one. And this is where all this recycled wood is going to. It's mainly into particle boards. This is a picture made by APF on Eurostat figures on how the waste wood is handled in the different countries. As you can see, in Italy, it's mainly recycled material recycling, and the only residual part is used by thermal energy recovery. So we can now go into the part in which there's also this one. I think this is the starting point of EcoReFibre. Recycling wood in particle board are increasing since a long time, but there is still room to go, as you have seen in the previous slide, for many countries. For MDF, we are just starting. There is a little line on the lower part of the chart, and there is a lot of room to grow. So if we want to go with a little description of the Italian system, I identified three main topics that maybe are worth presenting. The first is based on the EPR system for packaging, and it's quite a cost-efficient system, which is important when we talk about EPR system, and it currently goes with 10 euros per ton. It was 7 until 2 years ago, so 7 euros to finance per ton to finance a system that collects almost 2 million tons of wood a year. And there is a synergy with the wood waste that is not packaging. That's why it's quite important, because when dealing with municipalities, they don't make a difference between packaging and not packaging. They collect wood waste. And also for panel producers, there is, of course, packaging is well received when it's available, but also other kind of wood are welcome. So this system in reality finance all the transportation, the collection, even if it's not just packaging, which is what is financed by the environmental field. So more than half of the material is not packaging, as is diverted to recycling facilities. So the next one. The second part is, of course, we have a good production capacity that could make use of a lot of wood in million tons. And the particularity of the Italian system is that most of our companies are getting the waste that is more raw than in the other systems. So apart from some pretreatment, they get the waste with a lot of different other materials still in it, and that they specialized in cleaning it. And or maybe for this, they also feel a little less problematic. Of course, we saw from the models we will face the problem of recycling MDF in the future. At the current rate, they can still manage the rate of MDF into the waste wood to make particle board. And the third one is the kind of regulation we have. Now we have it written into a standard since 2024, which is focused, like Martin was saying before, on the final product. It's more like a quality chain of controls on the operators that deal with waste wood to make particle boards. The kind of check that you have to do with your suppliers upon arrival, during the process, and then on the final product. That, of course, let the company the possibility of invest and finding new solution to make recyclable what that was not recyclable before, like Adelaide said, for MDF. No, so with this kind of approach, they started from poplar 40 years ago and shifted a bit on some kind of waste, and down there they can recycle a lot of kind of waste. So these are three main ingredients. I come back a bit on the first one, which is EPR, because we saw in the last waste framework directive amendment that there was a discussion on adding mattresses to EPR on textile. There is the discussion. There is a EPR on textile ongoing, and this is something that even in the meeting with the Commission we had with the Furniture Association, they said it's in the toolbox. So it's something that is quite hovering around the sector, not just for packaging, but potentially even for furniture. For furniture, we have some representative of Ecomaison here. There is a scheme in France that is running for furniture since 2013. Some other experiments already running we have in Europe, and some are developing, like France, Spain, and Portugal. They have it in the regulation, but they still have to really deploy it in the next slide. But we can go to the last two. In Italy, we have a voluntary consortium from furniture companies that are advocating for an EPR for furniture, and that's a thing. So I took some figures from the study that this consortium made, just to see that there is a lot of possible wood to tap in. If we look at furniture waste, it's 70% of the bulky waste that we find in 4 large areas in the country with different ways of collection. 70% of that bulky waste is furniture, and 62% of that furniture waste is wood. In the next slide, so a lot basically a lot of wood. Okay, so coming to the conclusion, on the takeaways from this best practice, an important point for me is the idea of the waste regulation, for which harmonized standard, of course, is an improvement, is an idea, is something that we have to pursue in order to make the market efficient. But that's not the solution. That's the optimization of a solution that has to be smart. So the core of the regulation that we have to harmonize is something that has the recycling, the maximization of recycling at its core. Regulation across Europe are different. Not everyone is the same in the terms of how pushy is towards the companies to find ways to recycle wood. And the second is, of course, is possible to explore also the possibility of EPRs. The furniture waste stream is consistent. Also, the construction wood stream is consistent, but maybe a bit more problematic to handle. It could provide funding, and it could provide. It comes with target of recycling, so the result is somewhat guaranteed. Of course, there are trade-offs to be considered because it's also costly for the companies, and this is probably not a moment in which we can talk about adding cost, even if we say that it's paid by the consumer, but we know how it works. But it's something that has to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Omar. Is there a question from the audience?
Thank you, Omar. It's very interesting that there is already a norm that's for the recycled material. You think this will be a good starting point to use this reference, as we have seen that the main big and dramatic point to use the material, the waste wood, is this harmonization at European level. You think that this could be some good starting point that could be used as it, or with some very fine-tuning modification all over the Europe to help the Circular Act?
Well, the idea when we started the work for making it into a standard was to have something to be used for discussion when a possible harmonization process or the intention of the regulators to regulate wood waste will come. So yes, that's our main point. We know there are many differences, and it's a difficult discussion. All APF members know that very well, but this part of the proposal is on the table, and we can work on it.
Yeah, I think it's a very good example of a dilemma that we have. We have different situation in each country, and in each country we have EPR schemes that popped up and work now, and they increase the volume of wood that is available. That's great. So it does work, and I think we need this prototyping of different system in different countries to know what's the best solution, and not just copy the first one.
Yeah.
But we run into a dilemma because now we have to harmonize across Europe, and that doesn't fit together. What do you want to say, Adelaide?
I want to say one thing that sometimes we don't think. Going to the approach to put limits in the final products, I really believe that if we want to protect the health of the people, the users, and in the environment, it's the right point. Because at the same time, it rewards the industry that can improve process to reduce the contaminants and to have a fantastic product in the end. Okay, not put limitations what we can use, put limitations what we can put in the market, and be responsible for the impact of the products.
Yeah.
So I think if we can have a standardization in these basic rules, I think will be fantastic for the industry. Not pushed by IKEA.
No, I'm absolutely with you. So in the end, we should raise customer awareness about circularity so that they apply and are aware already during or before the purchase. What is the footprint of furniture? In the end, and lastly, this is not from my list and maybe coming as well from others, hopefully, it's about environmental education of the people. So they need to be aware what is in their products so that we can create from an early collection point then a much better source which can be applied where the technology is best.
Thank you. Okay, so we now zoom out a little bit further on the European level. Christian, the floor is yours.
Yes, thanks a lot. What is the connection to climate policy? What do we want to achieve with climate policy? It is we want to make Europe climate neutral by 2050. So this means, on balance, in 2050, we shouldn't add any more CO2 to the atmosphere, because this is what counts to all the bad impacts that we're already starting to see. So for that, we need to reduce the use of fossil carbon. And we're on a very good way on that with the rollout of renewable energy, particular solar, wind. This works very well. We are on track to reach our 2030 targets. But the further we go, the better we need to get at taking actively CO2 out of the atmosphere. Remove it from the atmosphere and keep it here with us. And there, of course, the bioeconomy can play a key role. So what we need to get better at is take the CO2 out, store it in our soils, in our forests. So while we are still producing biomass and food, and probably we'll need more in the future, so we need even to get better, to have more soil carbon, to have more CO2, more biomass in the forests, so that we lost over the last years the capacity in our forests to take in CO2 and to build up biomass is neither good for the industry, nor it's good for the climate or the biodiversity. Then we need to work on having more long-lasting products. This you also discussed before, less bioenergy because we have much better alternatives. But we also must manage that much better to keep the wood, the biomass in there, be it in buildings, be it in furniture, being about the materials you've been talking about with recycling, but also in the future bioplastics, to use biomass as a feedstock for the chemical industry. And then we'll always need to incinerate a certain amount of biomass, but then it shouldn't go back to the atmosphere, but we should capture it and either reuse it as a feedstock, like for the chemical industry, or we should store it permanently, geologically, in the empty gas fields of the North Sea, or, for example, in biochar, which then again could be used as a building material. So this is something we try to work on now, also more and more from a climate perspective. So we are also getting more and more into the aspects of recycling. Two concrete initiatives that we are
that we are working on this year. The one is the carbon removal and carbon farming certification. So we want to get better in certifying how much carbon is stored if you do better forestry. So we are developing a methodology for afforestation, where you could say, okay, this is the additional CO2 that is stored there. We will do the same for resilient forest management. Then we're working on a methodology on carbon storage in buildings, so that you can show if you use biomaterials. So what is the additional carbon that you store in a building, so that you can put that then in your company reporting, if you have net zero claims and so on. We're also looking for a very close link with the energy performance of buildings directives, and of course in all the other LCA methodologies that are currently not yet reflecting this value that you keep carbon stored in the product. And this is our first methodology that we work on product level, but we would be very interested to pursue that that further on, and also, maybe also in recycling systems and so on. So let's see how this goes. The other initiatives that we are working on are the 2040 climate targets for our member states. And as you may know, there are these carbon removal targets, which we often call LULUCF, land use change and forestry. And in that, we have this category of harvested wood products, where in a very rough way, we are already reporting on, okay, for how long is wood stored in certain types of products that ranges from saw logs for buildings to paper. And this is reported in a very rough way with some standard values that we call half-life, so for how long this is stored in there. So, for example, if we take the example of Italy, all the good things that you're doing on recycling the wood and keeping it longer is not reflected in the what we call climate inventory of Italy. So this is something I would be very keen to work on with all the national environment agencies, so that member states can see in their climate inventories the advantages if they invest into more circularity. So I think it's very complementary to what you've been discussing at the level of the value chain. But of course, a lot of these recycling systems need public intervention, need also public investment. So in that I would be very interested how that could then also be well reflected in the climate inventories. This needs a bit of work, also of technical work. So how could you get, for example, into estimates of these half-lives at national level that would, for example, reflect these recycling rates? So that's something I would be very keen to discuss this year. So we have currently an open public consultation on our 2040 climate targets, and I'm very happy that we have a dedicated section on enabling measures in the bioeconomy, where exactly we address these questions. How could we improve the harvested wood product accounting at the level of member states, so that more sustainable use of products, recycling is better reflected. So if you have a bit of time to look into this, would be very happy to get your feedback. It's open until the 4th of May.
Thank you very much. That sounds like a win-win situation. Does anybody have a direct question to Mr. Holzleiter?
Thank you very much. Concerning the methodology, I know you work with finalizing the work on the methodology for biogenic carbon accounting in buildings. In the technical assessment paper, that is preparatory work for the draft that will soon be published, it was suggested to only restrict to virgin materials, given the methodological difficulties to account for the carbon stored into recycled material. Do you agree with me? That would be a shame not to account for all that carbon.
I'm not in the technical feasibility of that, so I don't know. Also, very keen to hear your views on that. How feasible this is? I think it's definitely an incentive that we want to set. it's about the technical feasibility. So I guess there are some reasons why it was put there. So very happy to have a discussion about that. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're getting to our last speaker, which is Solène Gautron from the JRC. You are in the European Bauhaus unit. We, EPF, InnovaWood, and other sector organizations have initiated the Wood for Bauhaus Alliance about 4 years ago, I think. We are active in the European Bauhaus Academy, so we have many things in common already. I'm looking forward what you will tell us about future cooperation synergies within European Bauhaus.
Thank you, Oliver. And good morning, everyone. Indeed, lots of familiar faces. And I will zoom out even further, if I may, to focus on what is the DNA of the new European Bauhaus. Starting with a very simple, let's say, observation that this circular and sustainable transition is as much a technical challenge as it is also a cultural challenge, and that's where the new European Bauhaus comes to play. It was launched in 2020 by the Commission to really make tangible this transition that we're trying to achieve, to make people feel it in their everyday life, focusing on the resilience of communities in neighborhoods and focusing on our material world, meaning our buildings, our objects, our everyday environment. And the ambition of the initiative is quite straightforward, but it's also, a demanding one. It is to ensure that there is no trade-off between environmental sustainability, social inclusion, and quality, or what we call beauty. And it is not beauty as a luxury, it is beauty as something essential in the sense of spaces and solutions that people really want, that people actually use and care for. Because we know that a change can be difficult, and a new solution, however necessary it might be, will not be adopted if it is imposed and if it fails to really meet people's needs and expectations. So the new European Bauhaus is also about opening up the process and bringing together, indeed, as you were saying, a very broad community of architects, designers, industry partners, businesses, public authorities, and citizens to try and co-create solutions that are not only efficient, but also desirable and accessible. So this is what the initiative has been about for the past 4 years now. We really seek to support, promote, and give visibility to solutions that, can be deployed, accepted, and scaled up. And we do that in various ways in supporting demonstration. It is what you're doing here also with EcoReFibre to show that those circles of material reuse are economically viable at industrial scales, to really demonstrate the possibility of that, and is a kind of work and that is also supported within the European Bauhaus. And then we are trying to invest in skills through the European Bauhaus Academy that you mentioned. So ensuring that professionals have the necessary skills to implement new bio-based materials, new construction processes. But it's really skills across the construction value chain. So it's also about public procurers, how the demand must change, insurers, and so on. So there's really an effort into trying to upskill and reskill the whole construction ecosystem. yes, and then in general, I think the mission of the new European Bauhaus is to prepare society in some ways, try as much as possible to raise awareness, give visibility to new practices, to enable new solutions to come and be welcomed by people and fully adopted. So yeah, that's what I can say about the initiative.
Thank you very much. I think it's really key, human well-being, and first human well-being because it's nice to be well. So that's increasing the quality of living is always good, but having the acceptance of the end customers will trigger also the whole system. And what we discussed more technically with economic viability and environmental sustainability, carbon capture, everything comes together much more easily if you put human well-being in the end and work on that level. So it rounds it up very nicely, and I think we put the word human well-being into the report for sure. Okay, we are quite good in time. We would have an easy 10 more minutes to discuss things, either on the board if you have questions to each other, or from the audience. So I'm opening the discussion. Please take the floor and please contribute.
So, being a bit of a technical person, my question is a bit more on the technical side on this. The wood industry is not the only one to have questions about a complex waste stream. It's the same for the metals industry, same for the plastics and glass and so on. And there's quite a bit of debate as to whether it's a good idea to sort upstream or not, because there's always a risk that something wrong has been put in the wrong pile. So you have to check it anyway. So don't you think there's a need to focus much more on sorting at the particle or even the fiber side and improving our technologies there? I don't have a strong opinion either way, but I'd be interested to hear your views.
I think both are necessary. For one side, I think it's not clever to put all the effort in our. So the recycle centers, the society needs to learn how to recycle, okay? Because just an example, in Portugal, there is a new study that says 7 in each 10 people recycle, but only one know the right way to recycle it. So we are mixing all the recycled material. And in the industry is also true, okay? But because of what we discussed, that we want to have a good product and with respect of the health of the consumer and the health of our workers that are also very important for us, we need to have exactly the same system to defend our products to contaminants, to stones, to plastics, everything. So in a certain way, they are complementary, in my opinion, and we cannot say only in the recycle center or only in the plant. But maybe IKEA have a different opinion.
No, I would say, and maybe accomplish here in this respect, there are smart techniques on the market available, giving as well the customer green light once furniture is dumped into a container, that this is the right material, which can be directly sent as an information to the hauler for making them the right material out of this collected quality. Additionally, we think about and plan for mobile devices which can be put to the many places on demand to a dedicated time and place for processing the many volumes which are generating mostly in the city centers where no place and infrastructure is given. So this flexibility should allow to bring in more quality waste wood to the subsequent processes.
Thank you.
Hi. I have a more economical question, maybe. I hear from an European Commission side, you hear you speak about targets to capture CO2, targets to to invest in those types of technologies. Also about well-being. Maybe I'm a bit skeptical, but how do we link that to our economical challenges of today and our economical challenges of, you see that the wood, not only the wood industry, but the whole construction industry is under tension. How are the views on those evolutions, and what do you think for the coming 5, maybe coming 15 years?
I think it's a lot about the geopolitics that you currently see. Huh? I mean, we don't have fossil assets. Or what we have is natural assets. And where we have a competitive advantage is in forestry, agriculture. And then, of course, the more you can recycle and use also the waste, the more independent you get. I think the current model, like in agriculture, that we rely so much on the imports of cheaper fertilizer from Russia, shows its limits for now. So I think the debate that we are having here about recycling, about waste use, about how can we use our own resources, is of highest political importance. Or for the moment, it doesn't look like that the world is it looks the world goes not in a very nice direction. And as a continent that doesn't have a lot of resources, fossil resources, maybe a bit the similar situation as China, Japan, Korea. I think they are all thinking about the same things. How can you get more independent of imports? And I think this is one of the key issues when we go forward, when we think about our economic model for the next decades, be it in energy, where we can rely much more on renewable sources, and you already see the impact when you about the current war in Iran between China and us. We rely much less on that, and the big impact seems to be more in Asia. You see it on the critical raw materials with the trade deal that we've just concluded with Australia. And and as I said before, that our forests have lost their capabilities to take in CO2 and to grow as strongly as they did 2-3 decades or one decade ago, is also a key challenge that I think that this sector all over has to face.
Maybe an additional question, if I can. Does that mean for the targets that are envisioned for the coming years that this will be adjusted? I mean, are we more negative on those targets, or are we keeping the bar, or are we setting the bar as high as we...
Yeah, I think it's not so much about the targets. It's about the incentives. How do you get it down in the value chain? And this is why we do this certification. We need more positive incentives for the long-lasting use of our biomass, for a more sustainable use. We need to change. We need to change that. I mean, targets are a mean to put a signal on where we want to go. But if we don't have, and I think this shows very, very nicely for the sector that we are discussing here about. But if you don't have the right market incentives, it will not go well.
Thank you.
I would like to add to this that if you're in a difficult economic situation, innovation is a way out. And highly innovative countries like Singapore or Switzerland show the way. This is the only way out they have, actually, because otherwise they are not competitive. And so it's about acquiring competencies, know-how, knowing how to do, the society learn how to recycle, and all together you can move the whole system forward and have a step ahead. As we said, it's a very complex shift from linear to circular, crossing many dilemmas. That takes time. So if you're the first through it, you have a step ahead and certainly an economic advantage in the future as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all this discussion and all these good insights. I'm learning a lot again, talking from the perspective of an NGO, of an environmental organization who's very preoccupied with the fate of forests and how we can use wood in the best possible way. And Mr. Holzleiter, you were pointing at forests indeed losing their capacity to absorb carbon, and they have many other vital functions we rely on, and they're suffering from indeed the climate and biodiversity crisis and also an increasing logging pressure. And we need to tackle those two things. And I had two questions related to that. Absolutely agree with incentives mattering more than targets, actually. This is what actors need to deal immediately. The first is about is for you, Solène, about whether it would be possible to use the new Bauhaus initiative to get designs to extend product life, because it's very good to increase recycling, but it's very important to not increase the disposability of furniture, for example. So you also want to really extend the amount of time wood is staying in the economy and being used. And in talking about incentives, we've talked about bioenergy, and I'm primarily working on bioenergy. There's two types of incentives. One is subsidies, but the other time is the fact that the combustion emissions are not counted in the energy sector. And so the combination of those two really provides a huge incentive. And could it be an option to revisit that and to start attributing an emission factor to biogenic carbon combustion?
Thank you so much. I think it's a very strong point, and one that the European Bauhaus is trying to support and promote. The idea that, that's the idea behind those core values of environmental sustainability, social inclusion, and quality, is that you design products and homes and clothes that are there to stay and that are of quality, and that people care enough in a way that there's also this whole aspect of maintenance and care to indeed extend the life of the product. So this is really something that that the NEB tries to defend. We have at the moment more an initiative together with the European Institute of Technology, the IT, on small fashion brands and textile that really are trying to integrate this dimension in their design. It's a completely different industry, but one that has really those strong challenges of indeed very short-term livability. But just to say that this is something that is quite key. I agree.
Okay.
Okay. Gets a bit technical now with the zero rating of the biomass in the ETS for energy purposes. But let me say that I think we have a challenge in the system, because the benefits are at the level of the individual operators. The obligation to keep our forests resilient and that we have still a very healthy net removals also in the future is with the member states currently. It's at the level of the member states. So this is why we are doing this certification regulation, is to be able in the future to go more towards a market system. And on that, I think we need also in the sector, we need to have a discussion, because a healthy and resilient managed forest, of course, benefits everyone in the industry. So, and it's, I think going forward, the discussion is, okay, the emission trading system, the use of the fossil resources should be done in 10, 15 years, if everything goes well. Then it's okay, which system do we then have within the bioeconomy, that all actors in the bioeconomy take their responsibilities for having a very healthy and resilient forest. And the same goes for agriculture. So how do we finance, so to say, maybe this public good of a forest and agriculture? Because if you have a healthy soil, if you have a healthy forest, well, this delivers so many products. And so how do we make sure that everyone participates and pays their fair share for maintaining our primary natural resources of the forest and the soils? And this is, I think, where we need to think about, and where we, with our certification of carbon farming, want to take a first step in really quantifying in terms of emissions and removals. Okay, and then also further on biodiversity, water, and so on. Okay, what are the indicators for a well-managed soil or forest? And then I think building on that, we need to think about, okay, how do we finance that? We're looking now a lot into voluntary initiatives and try to discuss with the industry how could that be done. I think we need to go some steps further there.
Thank you, Christian. Is there a very urgent question from the audience? Otherwise, we would wrap up the panel. Doesn't seem to be the case. Very nice. We will go through a small round of final phrases from each panelist. Just one phrase. Adelaide, what is your main priority from your perspective to make wood and fiber recycling happen?
I think that I think industry needs stability. So policies that don't change every year, clear guidelines. What are the targets that, as society, we want to go? And yes, the industry is here to invest, but we need also incentives and good policies.
Yes, I would add at this point that material recycling is technically feasible and economically reasonable. So therefore, I hope the upcoming CEA can support in the way that we have more practical applications, which are already shown on the market.
Thank you.
Well, thinking about that, Circular Economy Act will be dealing again with the waste regulation. After all these 10 years talking about circular economy, I would say let's treat wood waste as a resource for real, because we keep talking about waste is a resource, but we don't really treat it as a resource. What you do with resources, you try to save them, to use it at its best, and to preserve their value. So that's it.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, as I've said, I've been learning a lot today, and very happy to continue that, and how to bring all the considerations that you have on circularity closer to what we do in climate. So about both how can we grow the virgin biomass more sustainably, how can we use it more sustainably, connected to all the recycling, and what do we do end of life when we still have to incinerate, and how can we design like really good market incentives along the whole value chain.
Thank you, Christian. Solène.
Thank you. Also learning a lot today, and maybe make my final word about the connection and the capacity to work across the outlines of sectors and discipline, which is something that is done within project. But I think as we try within European Bauhaus to really connect the good practices and make them visible, and as much as possible, give them strength. So just a word on that, or plea for more of that.
Thank you, Solène. And from my side, to put a smile on your face when you go to the lunch, I would like to cite Jimmy Cliff, who said, you can get it if you really want, but you must try until you succeed at last. Thank you very much for this nice panel.